I'm Shiloh Kantz, Executive Director of the Oklahoma Policy Institute. During the past few decades, Oklahoma has become one of the nation's most conservative states. During this time, we've basically turned our state into a laboratory for tax cuts. Oklahoma lawmakers have cut the state's personal income tax 9 times in the last 20 years. When adjusted for inflation and population growth, the current year state budget is 12% smaller than it was 2 decades ago. Oklahoma also has the nation's highest threshold for raising new revenue. As a result, Oklahoma lawmakers have voted to raise new revenue exactly once in the last 3 decades. So against this backdrop, let's take a look at what Oklahomans can expect during the special session that starts on Monday and the regular session that starts the following week, February 5th. Some state leaders, especially our governor, are pushing for even more cuts to the personal income tax. The governor's stated goal was to completely eliminate Oklahoma's personal income tax. For Oklahoma, more tax cuts, especially the elimination of the personal income tax entirely, is a recipe for disaster. The state released a budget stress test report last week showing Oklahoma is financially unprepared for anything more than a mild downturn. There are warning signs on the horizon as well. For example, revenue from oil and gas, the state's largest industry, was down 35% during the past year. That equals more than $1 billion not collected for state revenue and services. For those pushing for more income tax cuts, they're selling a vision of putting money back into the pockets of Oklahomans. But when you run the numbers, however, it's obvious that the math isn't mathing. ITEP has calculated the impact of a 0.25% cut to Oklahoma's personal income tax. The lowest income Oklahomans would get back about $19 a year, which likely isn't even a tank of gas. Middle income Oklahomans would get about $92 a year back, possibly enough to pay your gas bill. The richest 1% of Oklahomans, however, would receive more than $2,600, enough to buy them a round-trip ticket to Europe. Cutting the personal income tax over-promises but under-delivers for everyday Oklahomans who need it the most. And if we move forward to eliminating the personal income tax completely, Oklahoma would have eliminated 1 out of every $3 for last year's general revenue fund. Eliminating the personal income tax would also drastically worsen the inequality in our tax code. Without the personal income tax, the lowest income Oklahoman taxpayers would face a state and local tax rate that is 300% higher than the top 1%. I'm going to repeat that. The lowest income Oklahomans without the personal income tax would face a state and local tax rate that is 300% higher than the top 1%. Oklahoma's tax cutting spree has done nothing to make the state's policies more fair and equitable. Oklahoma was ranked as the nation's 16th most regressive tax system in ITEP's latest Who Pays report. The lowest income Oklahoma residents pay almost twice as much as the top 1% when measured as a share of household income towards state and local taxes. Our tax system is just upside down, and further cuts to personal income tax will make it even worse. These cuts have resulted in an ongoing disinvestment in public services. Oklahoma ranks among the worst states in nearly every quality of life report, from health, poverty, child hunger, education, a list of needs that we have not enough time for on this call. Decades of tax cuts have kept the state from investing billions of dollars annually into the shared services that could help improve these outcomes. This has been a giant missed opportunity to invest in the well-being of Oklahomans, and it doesn't have to be this way. We're no strangers to hard times. We've lived through the Dust Bowl as well as the boom and bust cycle of the petroleum industry. And the decade prior to the pandemic was among the worst financially for our state and our fellow Oklahomans. We don't want to go back to these days, and we don't have to. This is one of the key reasons that our organization is so focused on protecting existing revenue sources as we push for a comprehensive overhaul of the state's tax system to ensure that everyone pays their fair share. This is how we set the stage for shared prosperity for all Oklahomans today and tomorrow, for our children.